everybody. It's Stephen and Anthony. We are playing with our Make It Music cards and wanted to start talking about some of these strategy cards. We told you in our last little post that the strategy cards are sort of they're proper Dalcroze pedagogy, and so for the newcomer to Dalcroze space, we would consider this advanced material. To any of the old timers, anybody who's been working in Dalcroze spaces, you'll recognize all of these as the bread and butter of our work. And we thought we would start today with maybe the most obvious first card, which is called Make It a Follow. So the notion of a follow is actually so obvious that probably all non-Dalcroze music teachers don't even think of it as a strategy, because it's a part of basically all music instruction. Anytime we're working together and any one person is leading, then it's a follow. So all conductors conducting are doing a follow. All teachers who are maybe leading a sing-along from their guitar, they are doing a follow. The basic notion of a follow is something is happening and everybody else tries to get on board with it and do it with them. And then the game part of the follow, or the improvisatory part of the follow, is that whoever's leading is allowed to speed up or slow down, or make something louder or softer, or make something more emboldened or more diminished. You can mess, of course, with your music making any way that you like. And if the participants come with you on your agenda, then it becomes a follow. And as I said, part of what's kind of funny about it is that it's so obvious that, of course, all music teachers are doing follows all the time. And yet, until you name it as a strategy, you maybe haven't taken time to think about all the ways you could push on it, that you could push it further, that you could do more with it, that you could actually be proud or support those initiatives in your classrooms. It's a proper strategy. It's not just something that people do.
Yeah, I think that, one of the ways that a follow feels really natural to a musician is in fact in ensemble, where you might have a conductor or you might have a leader who is guiding the ensemble through through the piece and making very subtle changes or very subtle choices in terms of expression, in terms of tempo, in terms of dynamics. And it's the responsibility of the ensemble to follow the conductor. And this is something we can practice through movement, practice through improvisation, through having the students or the children respond to very subtle, gradual changes in our improvisation. And so there's a lot of ways that you might do this. And what I find is really useful with the follow is it builds this instinct to respond to those changes as a really physical compulsion. So if I'm going to gradually slow down and I notice that my students aren't following me, that should just be almost a constant response that they should have. As the music slows down, they should be inclined to follow that. So that's something we can practice and isolate really well with gesture.
In that particular example, there's so much good that happens right there. There's so many classroom management techniques that are going on because it requires everybody to stay together. So it's not ideal or acceptable, that 4 people who are really paying attention are doing the thing, and then the rest of the class is off, who knows what they're doing. The premise of the follow is, no, we're all going to get this together. And so we start at often the most simple follows start at the tempos that are most native to our students. So whatever sort of space they're in, whatever temporality they work in, slightly faster tempos often for the little ones, and slightly bigger slower tempos for bigger bodies is often sort of more native. And we begin there, and then we look for ways to speed up or slow down or make bigger or make smaller and see that the room is with us. So we're all, the student and faculty, are getting immediate feedback to see that we are actually doing it. And then once I can nudge them just a little bit faster and a little bit slower, then that opens up the door to go a little bit more faster or a little bit more slower. And then we can get into these fun games where we can drag out gestures so big that everybody's just hanging on your, on your every note or every bit. Whether we do it in we could say, let's all conduct together, or let's all clap together, or let's all do this motion at the same time. We can all do it together. And then if you're watching me, and I make it larger and I get the room to catch it, now they're zoned in. They're like absolutely focused in on me, and I have almost no shot of losing them. Like the classroom management part is immediately built in. And then there's so much fun with messing with their expectations. As I can go faster and I can go slower, or I can go bigger and smaller, or louder and softer, which I think gets us to a second version of the follow that I know Anthony does a lot of work with.
Yeah, sure. So I like the idea of follows as a way to reinforce comparatives. So if you've got musical elements that you can really make a really clear contrast between two different versions of that element. For instance, maybe it's fast or slow, or maybe it is loud or soft, or maybe it is two different meters, something in 3/4, something in 4/4. Maybe it is major and minor. Whatever you're going to compare and contrast, you've got this very clear, isolated version of that. And then in a follow, you can establish the first one. Let's say we're doing something in 4, and then at some point I switch to 3, and you have to watch the children or the students sort of struggle with that for a second and try to orient themselves to the new comparative and then lock in. And I guess that's interesting about a comparative to me is that when you make that change, it really makes them feel the difference. Oh, this doesn't feel right. What do I need to do to make this feel right? And that gets to, I think, a little bit more of the central idea of it. But what I'm more interested in than understanding the difference between 3/4 and 4/4 is being able to feel the difference.
We in the quick reaction, which is a series of things we'll talk about probably in our next video, there's always a cue that's given. And so it's also a kind of a follow, but it's a special follow because we give you a cue. We say that we're about to make this change with whatever the cue is. And then if people pick up on the cue, they go, okay, and now I can prepare and I can enter with you. And so there's a constant consonance. We're all together all the time. In a follow, in the follows that we're describing right now, if you're doing these comparisons, for instance, I'm going to switch meter on the room, then there's no cue in a proper follow. I'm just going to be in one meter and then all of a sudden be in another meter. And if everybody's job was to clap on the downbeat, then we can pretty much guarantee that no one in the room is going to get the first bar of it correct. They're all going to be wrong. They're all going to anticipate a downbeat being here, but because I switched meter without telling them, they're not going to get the physical feedback that they're looking for when they clap at the wrong time. And they're going to have a moment of, wait, what just happened? Why didn't that feel the way I wanted it to feel? They might try it another time or even two till it finally occurs to them, wait, I'm clapping at the wrong time. And then they have to go search. They have to search the soundscape, search their inner body, search the room to figure out where is the answer that I'm looking for. They go looking, and eventually what they come up with is, again, a bodied version of the answer. So it's less important to us that everybody immediately can tell us all the logic and all the words that describe all the theory that just happened. And it's supremely important that people would notice something's wrong in my body or something does not feel the way I want it to feel, and then go on a journey to go find it.
So when I teach a follow like this, I highlight that for the children, this idea that, hey, when I change, you're probably going to be off for a second. And what being good at this game would mean, and I put that in quotes because there's really no being good, but what being good at the game would mean is the amount of time that it takes you to go from being off to being on, to being, confused to being right back with me is going to be diminishingly small. And it's possible to make that very small moment of time where you realize it's switched and then you adjust to the new reality. And so that encouraging the students to, intentionally do that. Hey, when you feel it switch, the idea is how quickly can you get back on? And they enjoy that challenge. It sort of gamifies it a little bit. And it also helps to direct them to, what is the goal here? And that's one of the ways I try to describe it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just really quickly to sort of bring it into the cards, I think it's important to kind of think about how this might work in the context of the cards. If you've set up an activity with a starter card, let's just say, for example, we've got this one here that says touch, clap, clap, which is a really fun card. And in this card, maybe you're in a circle or you're with partners and you're doing a thing where maybe you're going to tap your legs and then tap the hands of your neighbor, and you're going to get this little, or you're going to tap your neighbors, and I guess this is what it's really saying: tap, clap, clap, tap, clap, something like that. or maybe you're gonna tap, clap. The card encourages you to change patterns or whatever. You've established that. I just did this one the other day at a workshop, the touch, clap, clap. It was really cool. And then this next card might say, do it twice as slow, twice as fast. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so let's do it. We're going to do tap, clap, clap, tap, and then we're going to switch to tap, clap, clap, tap, clap, clap, tap, switch back to tap, clap, clap. Okay, that's great. We've established that. Then what if you pulled a card now, you pulled a strategy card and it said make that a follow? Well, what are some ways that you could take that little activity that we just established where we have our taps and claps and we're going to change tempos? Well, I mean, there's a couple different ways to think about that. What would be your first instinct, Stephen?
Well, the obvious answer, I mean, the obvious sort of simplest follows is just that whoever is leading, however someone is leading, they would mess with tempo. To me,
Yeah.
that's just the most obvious,
That's what
simple.
I would say too. Hey, we're going to do it with me, but now instead of doing it abruptly, I'm just going to sort of change the tempo here and then maybe back here. And you're going to try to just stay with me. And then, we're going to kind of do that. And then maybe you might change that a little bit and then maybe pick different people to be the leader or something.
Yeah, I'm thinking, maybe, in a traditional Dalcroze space, I'm at the piano. I've already introduced the choreography, the gesture that we're going to do. And so we've already taken a little bit of time to everybody practice just this at one tempo, one version where we are touch the neighbor, clap and clap. Now maybe I'm in three, I go to the piano, maybe there's a song we already know that's in three. I'm accompanying, I'm singing, maybe we all sing that song. And then it becomes a follow as soon as I mess with that tempo, even a little bit. If I just speed up the teeniest bit, you wouldn't need much, where it would reveal if the classroom is with you or not with you. If I in the middle of the song start to push on the tempo of the song, and a couple people who are not paying attention, they'll all of a sudden be out of sync with the rest of the room. And now the follow is doing what it's supposed to do. The follow is revealing that we are together or not together. And so as soon as I can get the whole room to be malleable and come with me, then I know it's working. I'll just say, as a conductor, I've spent a lot of years in front of particularly choral ensembles and opera spaces. Anytime I'm working with a new group, and particularly when I was working with high schoolers, one of the very first sets of things that we ever do in those rehearsals is basically, it's just a follow. Because high schoolers, like all sorts of people, if they don't believe that you're actually leading, then they are not paying attention to you. They won't pay attention. They won't follow. And so they're just like, I don't know, I'm not even looking up. I'm just singing this song that I supposedly know and not paying attention. And we would spend tons of time at the beginning trying to get them to notice the gesture that I was offering and pin in tightly. And if I wasn't convinced that it was a tight pairing, there was no more rehearsing to do until we figured this out. And so we would do it again. We do it again. I'd mess with it and exaggerate. And then when I could finally get them on the edge, right with me, now we have enough ensemble to move forward. And working with students in a movement-based class, it's very much the same. It's not good enough for me for only, a fourth of the room to really be paying attention and then three-quarters to be who knows what they're doing. The follow is a great way for us to sort of lock that in, for everybody to hone in on the music that's happening. So if I'm at the piano and we're all doing touch, clap, clap, and touch, clap, and then if I slow it down just enough, then maybe I lost half the room. We pause, we say, what happened right there? Listen again, let's try again. We go back. We maybe switch partners or change position in the room somehow as we give it another shot. And now they realize, oh, he's going to mess with the tempo. And so now I can, once they're locked in, it's amazing how much range they have. You can go much faster and much slower and not lose the room. And now they're locked on. And then we're looking for the next add-on, which is maybe that second card, the twice as fast, twice as slow. So in order for the twice as fast, twice as slow to work, that probably, to me, that screams quick reaction, which will be our next one. We're going to give some kind of cue that means now twice as fast, twice as slow.
Yeah, it even says on the bottom of it, make it a quick reaction, which you can really do. You're right. This is a very quick reaction-y thing to do. And, but then to take that and make it a follow in an interesting way, to eliminate the cue and just have them try to follow along. I think it's so I just think it's important to think about in the context of if you're putting together activities with these cards, what would be your play on one of those cards?
Yeah.
How would you
Yep.
incorporate that follow into that, that the interaction that we've set up? So I think it's
And
great.
And I'll add to that, although we have 9 different strategy cards, there is no expectation that you would only ever use one, or that you're only allowed to use one at a time. And as we talk more, you'll see they almost always stack and overlap. And probably the most stacked card is the follow.
Yeah,
Almost everything we do, every single card in the whole deck, truly, probably, every card in the whole deck is
the
some
follow
version
already. Yeah,
of follow. They're all follows.
yeah. Sometimes that's
But
the
it's
thing that is a
important
little
to name
tricky.
it. Yeah, it's important to name it because it's not a throwaway strategy. It's a thoughtful technique that we want to constantly ensure people are locking into.
So,
No, we're supposed to be together. That's the follow part. And then we have lots of ways to provoke it.
for sure. All right. Well, this has been great. I hope people are going to start messing with the strategy cards, and there's a nice, healthy couple paragraphs for each one of them in the book as well to give further explanation and examples. So, if you are ready to start dipping into those strategy cards, I think you'll find them to be a really great gateway into a little bit more traditional Dalcroze pedagogy, and let us know what you came up with.
Thanks, everybody.